Howdy, Immortalium here, and you might have noticed recently that I've been reviewing some experimental short anime films from Osamu Tezuka. And mainly I've been reviewing the ones that are, of a decent length, maybe half an hour to 40 minutes long, but Osamu Tezuka also did a bunch of much shorter short anime films, all of which were under 10 minutes long. And I thought that rather than trying to review each one individually, that I would actually review these movies kind of by the category of the animation production company. So I thought it would be interesting to take a look today at the experimental anime films that Osamu Tezuka produced while he was at Mushi Production. And of course I've already reviewed two of these shorts, but I'll touch on them and include a card so that you can go watch those reviews if you want to get more detail on them. But starting off, the first two experimental anime shorts that Osamu Tezuka produced were Tales at a Street Corner and Mail, which were both screened at a kind of a conference to show off Mushi Production's animation. So those two shorts were shown as well as the first episode of Astro Boy. Now I've already reviewed Tales of the Street Corner, and if you want to watch the full review, I believe there should be a card somewhere up in the corner so that you can go watch that full review. But to quickly summarize that I really enjoyed Tales of the Street Corner. I thought it was a very, very good short film. And the other short film that was shown at that same conference was called Mail. Now, Mail is a bit of an odd one. It's only 3 minutes long, so it's very short. And it all takes place within a room that is actually covered in darkness most of the time. As we're watching the movie, we kind of get these spotlights that show us that there's a man in the room, as well as a pair of cats. And the male cat is talking to us, observing the actions of the man. He implies some things which makes us think that something's going on in this room. And then there was a bit of a twist at the end. And overall, Mail is pretty enjoyable. Admittedly, the animation is a bit on the basic side, but I do like how inventive it is in the sense that we're stuck in this one room and we're only being allowed to show certain parts of the room. And once we actually get a kind of clear idea of what's actually going on in the room, it actually turns the story completely on its head. So from that perspective, it's very enjoyable. The voice acting, there's only one voice actor in this short, and it's for the male cat. And I'll admit that the voice for the male cat certainly has a lot of emotion in it, but it borders on the grating side. I think if it was just a little bit higher, I would be absolutely frustrated as hell to listen to this. But considering that it is meant to be a cat and it's meant to be quite a playful cat, I do think that the voice works. It just barely manages to not be grating. So Mail overall is a short that I did quite enjoy, even if I didn't enjoy it as much as Tales of a Street Corner. Now following that, Osamu Tezuka produced an animated short called Memory. And Memory is another pretty short one, although it's a bit longer than Mail. It's about 5 minutes 40 seconds long. And basically Memory is tackling the idea of how things change over time. Like for instance, there's a very good section early on in the short where it explains to us that when you try to think back to someone that you've met a long time ago, you basically only remember the most notable thing about them. So if someone was smoking a cigar, you might only remember the cigar or something like that. It's a pretty good exploration of memory. Now it's portrayed in a very comedic manner, maybe a bit overly so. From that perspective, while I did enjoy the comedy of it, I do wish that it was a slight bit more serious, but it is enjoyable nonetheless. And the animation here is very, very interesting. It's actually quite similar to the beginning part of a movie I reviewed recently called Mind Game, where for the first part of the animated short, we have real pictures of people who are animated, and it is a very bizarre technique, but it is quite endearing in a fashion. And as the short goes on, it becomes more and more cartoony. So that style is actually pretty much only at the beginning of the short. But it is actually quite well done. And to be honest, I think the execution here of this animation is actually better than how it was done in Mind Game. With regards to the voice acting for Memory, it was alright. It wasn't nearly as memorable as the voice in Mail, although that could also be viewed as a bit of a good thing. It served its purpose very well, but it didn't particularly stand out to me. They just kind of did what they needed to. Following that, we have Mermaid. And Mermaid is a really, really lovely short. Definitely one of my favorites from Osamu Tezuka's experimental anime shorts. and it's about a boy who discovers a fish at the beach, and if he realizes that this fish is actually a mermaid, and he's all excited about it and everything, he has a good time with the mermaid, takes the mermaid home. No one else can tell that this is a mermaid, they only see a fish, and the story progresses from there. And it is a really, really lovely story, and one that I think really resonated with me, since it was quite an exploration of imagination. Now, the artwork is obviously going to divide people. On one hand, it is very basic in terms of a lot of the characters, pretty much all the characters resemble stick figures, and there isn't a ton of detail in the backgrounds or anything, so it is relatively basic. But I do think that the actual animation of this piece is very, very lovely, very smooth, very nicely animated. I was very pleased with it. Now, there's no voice acting in this short, but there is a detail that I definitely want to bring up, and it's very important. So the version that I have here is called the Kimstom Collection. This collects a bunch of Osamu Tezuka's experimental anime shorts, and it's been noted by many people online, as well as when I watched it, that the subtitling for Mermaid is pretty bad. So basically there's no voice acting, but there are these cards that pop up every moment to just give us a bit of an explanation. It's written in Japanese and just kind of develops the story a little bit. But the English subtitles for these cards don't appear for like anywhere between 50 seconds to 1 minute, which, as you might imagine, can be really, really frustrating. It doesn't ruin the piece, but it definitely takes away from it. And I just wish that it was better subtitled in this collection. But nonetheless, I really, really did enjoy Mermaid, and it's one that I can definitely see myself going back to again and again. After that, we have The Drop, and The Drop is a bit of an amusing one. The plot of it is that it's about this guy who's stuck on a raft. He's dehydrated, he desperately wants water, and one day he's looking up at his mast and he notices that there's these 3 drops of water, and to him, he really, really desperately wants these drops, and so he tries to the best of his ability to be able to get these drops so that he can drink them. And it is definitely an amusing short, enjoyable in its own way. It's got some very good humor, but it just didn't really feel that experimental to me, in contrast to all of these other shorts that Osamu Tezuka did. The Drop feels like something that I'd almost see in Looney Tunes. The artwork for it actually reminds me a lot of the kind of limited animation cartoon series that were coming out in America at the time. I could easily see the plot of this being something like from Looney Tunes or something. So while it was enjoyable, I just did struggle a bit to see how this was considered to be an experimental film. Now, the animation itself is decent enough. There's a lot of very sudden movements, which might be a bit jarring to some people, but I think it works for this kind of piece. There's no voice acting in this short, but there is a bit of dialogue near the end, which is told through cards, on-screen cards where it's written out. While I do question the experimental nature of The Drop, it's still an enjoyable enough film. Now, this is a bit of an important point to make here. Even though I'm reviewing, the Mushi Production era, unfortunately there is one short that isn't included in this box set. It's called Cigarettes and Ashes. As you can imagine, I was quite disappointed to learn that it wasn't included in the box set. Of course, I'm still super happy to have this box set and be able to watch all of these other amazing movies, but I do wish that they were able to get that one and include it. So unfortunately I haven't watched it, and because I haven't watched it, I can't review it, so I'm sorry. Following that, we have Pictures in an Exhibition, which I actually did review recently enough as well, and I will include, of course, a card in one of the corners so you can go check my review of that movie. But to quickly summarize, I found it enjoyable, even if a bit uneven in quality in some of the stories that it told. So while I did enjoy Pictures at an Exhibition somewhat, I didn't think it was as good as those other longer shorts that Osamu Tezuka did. The final experimental anime short that Osamu Tezuka did while at Mushi Production is called Genesis. Now, this one's a bit of a weird one in that it's a parody. So apparently there was a movie that came out around the time called, what was it called, In the Beginning or something like that. It was like this kind of biblical epic covering the Genesis portion of the Bible, and I guess Osamu Tezuka wanted to parody it. And he basically tells a story very similar to Genesis, but with a lot of kind of changed details. which make the story a lot wackier, a lot crazier. And in my mind, while watching this short, I kind of got the feeling that Osamu Tezuka was making fun of creationism, which he might be, but someone else told me that they didn't get that out of the short at all, so I have no idea. But while I found that aspect kind of amusing, I must admit that of all of these shorts, that Genesis is probably my least favorite, just from the perspective of I didn't watch the original movie, so I'm probably missing a lot of little details. And it comes off as unbelievably weird, weird to the point where like I struggled to find the message in it. So while I wouldn't say that it's awful, I would definitely say that it's the weakest of all of the anime shorts that I've seen from Osamu Tezuka. The animation itself is pretty basic. There isn't too much movement. It's mostly kind of still images. There is some startling creativity in these images, as you can probably see. So from that perspective, I definitely appreciate it. But I do wish that there was a bit more animation to it. And the voice acting, I believe there is a narrator narrating the piece. And he does a pretty good job of doing a kind of an epic narration of this really weird version of Genesis. So I do have to commend the voice actor there, but as I said before, I'm just not super keen on the short Genesis. So that's my review of the experimental anime shorts from the Mushi Production era. In general, I would say that I quite enjoyed a lot of those shorts. I thought there was a lot of creativity in them, and I was definitely glad to be able to watch them. And it's my intention that soon I'll be reviewing the Tezuka Production shorts, which make up the second half of this box set. But having said all that, let me know your thoughts. Which shorts did you like? Which shorts did you dislike? Did you see something in some of these shorts that maybe I didn't? And of course, if you have any other information about Osamu Tezuka, about Mushi Production, about these experimental anime shorts, please leave them in the comments below. And of course, if you want to support the channel, I would encourage you to use my Amazon and Right Stuff affiliate links in the description below. When you purchase an anime or manga through those affiliate links, not only are you supporting me, not only are you supporting the channel, but you're also supporting the anime and manga industry. So I would highly encourage you to purchase your anime and manga through those affiliate links. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye bye.